Wolverines!
Wolverine!
And that's how we start the show here on the Backlot 605 podcast, episode number 88. Brian was not ready for us to start it like that.
That is awesome.
That is my co-host, Mr. Brian Mensing. I am Casey Kelderman. Brian, what's up?
Oh, just a wonderful day in the neighborhood.
It's a wonderful day in the 1980s neighborhood. We're set in the middle of the Cold War, and we're ready to fight some Russians.
With an associate Brat Pack.
Yes, and that is because we're talking about the 1984 movie Red Dawn. So that'll be the topic for this week as we are in week 2 of our summer camp mini-series. Not summer camp. I don't know what I'm talking about. Our 4th of July America mini-series. I was so used to saying summer camp mini-series for 5 weeks in a row, so forgive me.
If this is summer camp, we need to evaluate what someone calls a summer camp.
Hey, this is in Russia. This is what they call summer camp.
Huh. Well, they do talk about a camp in the movie.
There is a camp in this movie. Yeah, so that'll be a little later on in the show where we talk about Red Dawn. I think it's definitely our Cold War movie for this.
Yes.
I was honestly debating between this and Rocky IV, but I figured we'd cover the Rocky series at some point, and this would be a good spot for Red Dawn instead.
Being to the fact that I am Rocky illiterate, I wouldn't want to go into this straight into Rocky IV. So that
would be kind of fun to go straight into Rocky IV, though.
Oh, I think that'd be painful, is what I think.
Rocky IV slaps.
So I will take Red Dawn any day.
Well, let's use that to transition into the news. I did not put this in there, but maybe we can start there, Brian.
What's that?
If you want to kick off the news, and then I will add this to it. But Rocky IV does relate to some of the news pieces that we have coming out.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess we can start there. You might want to stop with the underscore. Just kidding. All right. So the first thing in regards to the news that we have is it looks like Leigh Whannell, the director behind Upgrade and The Invisible Man, the guy that half the duo that brought you the Saw series, Leigh Whannell is slated to direct. So this has been confirmed, is what I'm understanding, Casey?
Yes. Jason Blum has confirmed it himself.
Awesome is that he is slated to direct the Ryan Gosling Wolfman for Universal. I'm still even before you even put Leigh Whannell on there, I'm all in on a Ryan Gosling Wolfman film. I think that is an interesting pairing of the supernatural horror aspect of the monster movies and pretty face Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, we talked about that a few weeks ago when
right.
The Gosling part was
because it sounds like
to be happening.
Well, because it sounds like it's based off of an idea that he has. And the fact that we've got Leigh Whannell, who obviously we know Leigh knows how to be able to do horror and do horror well. It's not like he hasn't helped define a couple of franchises along with his buddy James Wan. But even outside of that, on his own side of things, between Upgrade and The Invisible Man, we know that he can do the job. So I know that he can build a very character-based Wolfman. I know that Ryan Gosling can pull off the character-based Wolfman. So I think this is a very good pairing.
Yeah, when I heard this news, I was kind of taking a step back where I'm like, well, are we just going to let Leigh Whannell do everything? I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but
I was going to say, where's the bad news in that statement?
But then the more I thought of it, I'm like, well, Universal and Blumhouse in this partnership with Universal Monsters going forward, they're kind of taking the formula that Universal first used in the 30s for their monster movies, because you look at Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein and The Invisible Man, all directed by James Whale, who we discussed a few weeks ago. And so if they're kind of going back to that formula and having Leigh Whannell, take on the ones he wants to take on, and then we'll let other directors, there's still talks about, his buddy James Wan is supposed to be taking on Frankenstein. Karen Kusama is supposed to be doing Dracula. David Koepp is supposed to be doing Bride of Frankenstein. So if they're still planning all those, and no one was really attached to Wolfman before this, I'm all for it, because if you look at how like Leigh Whannell is as a director, especially with Upgrade and how that has transitioned into the Invisible Man. We're gonna have some cool stuff with the Wolfman effects in this. And as far as Gosling goes, I'm all for it. I think he likes to take risks. I think he is a very inspired choice to have as the Wolfman. I mean, you look at the Invisible Man, we didn't really have a recognizable star in this in that movie. People know Elizabeth Moss, but she's not to the Gosling level of an A-list Hollywood actor in this. And I think that'll add to the movie.
But also with the Invisible Man, you're also I get why they put the emphasis in terms of the known face, the known talent behind Elizabeth Moss, because the Invisible Man is per se not there most of the time.
I mean, they had Johnny Depp up for the role at one point.
Well,
they were shooting for Hollywood A-list there.
Yeah, but Johnny Depp wouldn't have to be there most of the time because he'd be invisible.
Yeah, he would be sitting in a booth cashing in a paycheck for that one.
Exactly. But I'm saying is that I'm looking at this is that with the Gosling thing, here's my question also too then is that are we looking more practical? Because I mean Leigh Whannell does practical pretty well. But obviously Invisible Man showed us that he can do the perceived and a little bit of the CGI where it's necessary. When not, do we get a CGI Wolfman or are we going to get a practical Wolfman? That's where I'm a little bit hesitant to see where Universal goes with this.
I think because from what I understand for this, and I'm expecting this to be a $10 to $15 million budget for this movie, because Gosling probably costs a little more, but I think because it's his idea, he'll probably take a pay cut, and
he'll probably take some back end percentages probably.
Yeah, and so I don't expect this to be a big budget movie, and with that, I think they're going to use the CGI wisely. I think they're going to use it where they need to cover up where they need to cover up some of the practical effects, the stuff that would be visible in camera, so you cover it up with the CG. And I think that's what, Invisible Man had CGI in it, but he used it well. He used it to cover up what Leigh Whannell could not do in camera.
Right.
So I think Universal completely understands that for these movies. I think this is more of a Jason Blum thing where they're like, yeah, what he's doing over at his own thing is doing well. Let's just let him do our stuff for a while. And he understands where to put the money. That is the biggest thing that Jason Blum has done as a producer, as a great producer. One of the best in Hollywood is he knows where to use the money. And so you look at all the projects he's had. I would have to look up. I wonder what the highest budgeted movie he's ever produced is. It can't be over $20 million.
I guess we'll end up just having to look.
Yeah, but I'm all for this. Leigh Whannell is also co-writing with Jason Blum's wife, so I think we're keeping it in the Blumhouse family, and that's perfect for the Universal monsters going forward.
Yes, and I would be, especially for the fact that we've got the Invisible Man and now we've got Leigh Whannell doing the Wolfman. I would be apt to say and I encourage to say, okay, if we've got Jason Blum on the the producer side of things, but keep Leigh Whannell kind of in the mix and things and whatnot, and maybe have them be the dastardly duo that reinvents and gives us the good monster universe that Universal has been craving for decades.
Yeah, I think this is the perfect step in the right direction. I'm stoked for this. Wolfman is my favorite character, and having Gosling take on this and Leigh Whannell, that's perfect.
Yeah. I was just pulling up the productions of the Blumhouse, and just on a quick glance on Wikipedia, it doesn't give me budget numbers, so I don't know.
No, that's what I was going to check on, but yeah, we'll do some. We'll let Derek do some research for us.
There you go. All right, so the next thing we have here, which is completely right up your alley there, Casey, is that we got the little quick 30-second teaser for Halloween Kills that is slated to come out, unfortunately, now, not until October of 2021. I'm on the fence of not about the teaser, by all means not about the teaser, but giving us the teaser, which is now going to be 16 months before the movie even comes out. I'm almost thinking that maybe we should have waited a little bit and keep us a little bit in the dark a little bit longer, knowing that we're gonna have that this movie got pushed out until next year. Outside of that, the teaser itself, I loved it. I freaking loved it. I love the way it picks up exactly where it needs to for the sake of the sequel.
I think this was a perfect move, marketing-wise,
Why?
because when they released the teaser was the exact same day that they released that the movie would be pushed back a year. And so you're going to have fans upset and pissed off. Well, I want to see Halloween as soon as possible. I want it now. That's the mindset we are in right now. But it's just not a possibility for this movie to come out this year. So to give them a little tease, and that's perfect, a 30-second teaser, which is probably the opening 30 seconds of this movie,
right,
is enough to hold over fans until we get I assume this October we'll get a full trailer, 2-minute trailer.
So you think they're going to wait that long?
I think they'll wait till I would assume if I was them, I would drop it on Halloween. Drop the full trailer for Halloween on Halloween.
Drop a Halloween trailer on Halloween?
Yeah, that's what I would do.
That's just weird. Why would we do that?
But as far as the trailer goes, I think it's good. It's a 30-second teaser for a movie from like I said, probably the opening 30 seconds of the movie. Mm-hmm. It does give us context as to where the film will be taking place and the timeline. So I read further on it that the movie is going to take place much like Halloween 2 on the exact same night as Halloween 2018. So it's going to be all set on the same night is from what I understand from what I read about it. So, well, it makes for an interesting look at where Halloween Kills is going to go going forward in that movie, because I'm still wondering, I'm like, how are we going to, I don't want to call it cop out, but how are you going to explain Michael surviving being trapped in a basement lit on fire? Is he going to be like just burnt to a crisp this entire movie, or what? How are they going to explain it is my biggest question for Halloween Kills.
Oh, I don't have a question there. I mean, you're talking about a building that's on fire. I mean, outside of the fact of whether or not he himself is burnt and whatnot, eventually, it was a log cabin. Basically, is that once it gets burnt to a certain point, he just goes through the wall. So, this wasn't as much of a big deal. That isn't a breaker for me, kind of thing.
As a Halloween fan, it's not. I just want to know how they're going to explain it this time, because in Halloween, in the first Halloween,
who says that they do? Who says that they don't explain it? It just is. Will that piss you off more?
No, because it's Michael it's Michael Myers. It's the shape. It's evil.
It's evil.
But in Halloween 2, he's also lit on fire and shows up in Halloween 4, and they just explain he's been in a coma for 10 years.
Oh, was that all?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that when we get Halloween Kills Again, or whatever the third one's supposed to be called, that it'll take place 10 years later and he'll just wake up from a coma? So you've already given us the next one?
No, I hope they go full crazy bonkers with this, where the firefighters and police show up to the house and Michael breaks out and he's on fire stabbing people. That's how I would open the movie. Give us a flaming Michael Myers attacking people.
I guess we will find out next year. All right. So the last little bit of news that we have is that Jude Law is set to play Captain Hook in the live-action Peter Pan, because Disney can't do anything that isn't live action anymore of a movie that they made, 50, 60 years ago. I like the idea of Jude Law playing Captain Hook. Kind of give the pretty boy face to the villain is always kind of a nice little refreshing thing, as opposed to the dark and gritty, Michael Shannon, evil looking kind of guy. Give him somewhat of an appeal, but at the same time too, that you don't want to root for him because he's the bad guy. So I can get behind Jude Law being part of the Disney family. I mean, he's already in there because of Captain Marvel, so no, why not dip into more of that Disney money?
Yeah, I'm interested to see where they go with this Peter Pan movie, because I think Peter Pan is of all the ones that they've remade, Peter Pan is pretty prime for a live action one. You didn't need to do Lion King, you didn't need to do Aladdin or Beauty and the Beast, but Peter Pan has problems, as most people know. So to get a live action update, I think is going to work wonders for the property, especially for Disney. And how people perceive the Peter Pan franchise within Disney. Having David Lowery behind the director's seat is really cool, because I haven't seen Pete's Dragon yet. I've heard really good things about it. I heard it's one of the better live action remakes for Disney. I'm a big fan of A Ghost Story that he did a few years ago. But yeah, I think he's a very interesting visual director, and to have him attached to the Peter Pan property is exciting. Jude Law, I'm indifferent on. I don't care either way that he's Hook. Like that's fine. That's fine. I cast any other, Hollywood white guy in the role, and you would fill it fine. Like he's just one of those dozen actors that you can fill into anything and they'll be fine in the role. So I'm very indifferent on Jude Law.
Captain Hook, played by Johnny Depp.
I mean, he played Captain Jack Sparrow already. Like, why
right?
not?
Why not? Right? He knows how he knows how to do the pirate here. Mm-hmm. I mean, I certainly I get your reservation to Jude Law. But at the same time too, maybe this is going to be that movie that's going to be that he's going to be the right person that gives that definitive, refreshing take on Captain Hook and whatnot. The last time we had a decent Captain Hook, it was Dustin Hoffman. I'd be curious to see where this goes.
Yeah, I'm excited for the movie. I'm indifferent on Jude Law.
Maybe until we actually see Jude Law in character, that will probably be the sway. Because I see you picturing clean cut, short hair, Jude Law. Because when I think Captain Hook, I'm gonna think obviously pirate garb, long black hair and whatnot. So maybe it's gonna be a matter of once we see him in character, it might change the perspective.
Full twirling mustache or bust.
Oh, and the funny thing is I could picture him totally doing that.
Yeah.
So that's all we've got for the sake of news. Nothing really.
We got to go crazy. Back to my segue that I completely forgot to put in the news in the first place.
I have to move my Zoom because it was covering it up. I forgot about that. I don't know if I'd call this news, but I
was talking about Rocky.
But I will give you that, is that it looks like Stallone is talking about releasing a director's cut of Rocky IV. Which my question is that, well, is this needed? What is this director's cut going to give us that Rocky IV hasn't already given us? It's been this long. What's on the cutting room floor? What's the dynamic that Stallone's going to bring to this director's cut?
As a Rocky IV, I love Rocky IV. It is
because he directed 2, 3, and 4, correct?
And 2, 3, 4, and Balboa.
Because I know that he didn't do the last one, right? And I know he didn't do the first one.
No. Yeah. So he did Rocky IV. This would be all Stallone. Yeah, I am interested to see if he's the one saying there is a director's cut. I have a director's cut out there, I would be all for it. I want to see what else he had on the cutting room floor, because Rocky IV is literally 2 fights and 5 training montages. That's the movie. Like I don't want to say it's barely a movie because it is barely a movie, because it is just that. It's a couple fights and some training montages, and a ton of Survivor songs in the movie. But I love Rocky IV. If I'm ever going to put a movie on where I'm like, the movie feels like I only sat there for 20 minutes and it's actually an hour and a half long, that's Rocky IV. To see, like, from what I understand is where this came from is because of the success of Creed 2 and how the Dragos were portrayed in that movie. I think that's what Stallone is referring to, that there might be more family dynamic stuff in Rocky IV that'll help tie into Creed 2 a little more than anything.
So we'll get another revival of the Dolph Lundgren career.
Yeah,
they'll put him front and center. All of a sudden, be like, well, we need to put him more stuff and get Kindergarten Cop 3.
Yeah, why not? But Rocky, I know Creed 2 is a divisive movie for some reason in our group. Go check out our live show to find out why. But what they did with the Drago character was super interesting, because in Rocky IV, he's literally, I must break you. Like he's not a character. He's just a bad guy. He's basically a robot in that movie. Besides the fact that there is a robot in Rocky IV. But to see them further expand his character would be, I'd be all for it. I would like to see what Stallone has in store for a director's cut of Rocky 4. Hopefully his speech is just a little longer at the end.
So we're gonna make it from an hour and a half movie to we'll find out that the Rocky 4 direct just under 3 hours. Like Stallone's gonna want his epic director's version of his film to say he's got a director's cut out there.
Sheesh, I would love that.
Maybe we'll get 10 montages and 3 fights.
I'm all for it. There's probably a deleted scene of Paulie making out with his robot or something. You have no context for that, do you?
I'm familiar with the robot.
Okay. Happy birthday, Paulie.
Happy birthday. All right. So yeah, that's all we've got as of right now. What would you say that we've got coming up here next year? What do we have coming soon that we should highlight, Casey?
All right. We have Coming Soon, which is a featured article on backlot605.com, written every week by our very own Derek Vierink. He added a few titles that we were not able to cover last week because they were later additions to the article. They had not yet had release dates or widely known release dates. So the first 2 movies we are going to be talking about are already out on VOD. The first is Money Plane, which stars the rated R superstar Edge, Adam Copeland.
Also, you sound like you just broke puberty for a second there.
No,
you're like,
yeah, I went full Tony Schimmel on that one. Also stars Kelsey Grammer, Denise Richards, and Thomas Jane. It is about a heist happening on a casino plane.
And I would like to point out that this is directed by the youngest of the Lawrence brothers.
The famous Lawrence brothers.
The famous Lawrence brothers. And if we don't know who the famous Lawrence brothers are, you did not grow up in the 90s. Or if you were like you were like 2. But it's the fact that we actually, I did see that Derek put this in here, is the fact that we have cameos from all 3, Joey Lawrence and Matthew Lawrence and Andrew Lawrence, in the film as well. Because I even met the very first thing I noticed right away, before I even knew that Andrew Lawrence, the youngest, was the one directing and whatnot, I'm watching the trailer and I'm looking at the names pop up on the screen. I'm like, tell me why there's no Joey Lawrence in the credits of this trailer. I saw Joey Lawrence. I needed him to have him in the credits too.
Brian is a huge Melissa and Joey fan.
Screw that, man. I'm going all the way back to the days of Blossom.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. But I'm all for this for Edge. Edge in this movie, he seems like a lot of fun. Why is he not getting more roles? Because I think he can totally play like that old school 80s, 90s action star. Like, he just looks like he's having a blast in this movie. So is Thomas Jane. Thomas Jane looks like he's having a lot of fun. Yeah, this movie seems like a blast, literally. I don't know if I'm gonna...
And we got Kelsey Grammer.
And we do have Kelsey Grammer, who looks just like he's also having a blast playing this villain in this movie. It looks like a lot of fun. I don't know if I'm going to cough up the money to rent or buy on VOD. This may end up being like an Amazon watch, a year down the road or something like that. But
my thing is, I don't think it's going to be that long. I don't think you're going to have to wait that long, whether it be a Hulu or a Netflix or something like that. This is that kind of thing that, like, I bet you within 3 months you can watch this for free.
Yeah, or it'll end up in the $3 bin at Walmart. The next movie that we got is Inmate number 1, The Rise of Danny Trejo, which is a documentary about the life story of the actor Danny Trejo and his upbringing, his addiction and recovery from drugs, and how he became everybody's favorite Latino actor.
Oh, this is one of those ones where as soon as I even heard about it, this is one of those documentaries. As much as you want to give me crap about my Sound City pick for a documentary, this would be another one of those kind of movies where I mean, even just knowing the premise of what the movie is about and who the movie is about, I think this is one of those documentaries that needed to happen, that needs to be seen. And this is even for the fact that I had not even seen a trailer for this. Just knowing the person who Danny Trejo is and knowing the background and his history and whatnot. Because, I mean, he didn't even have a career until he was, almost 50? when he was picked by Robert Rodriguez for some earlier films. I mean, he's an absolute phenomenon that everybody loves. He's a great big huge teddy bear who looks like he can kick your ass in the dark alley. I'm looking forward to being able to get an opportunity to watch this documentary.
Yeah, the movie looks good, and like you said, I think he's one of the actors that is definitely primed to have a documentary made about them. Like his life story is more fascinating than any of the movies he's been in. You know, it's just one of those life stories that is something that you would see in a movie. It doesn't feel real, but it is. And I watched the trailer. It looks very good. It has some interviews with other actors and directors that he's worked with before. Looks like it does go into full depth of his entire life. And yeah, I'm excited to check this out. You know, I might not rent it, but once it does pop on a streaming service, this will be a watch.
Oh, sure. Definitely.
So
definitely.
That is also out on VOD right now, as well as Money Plane. But we do have some more coming soon for this upcoming week. Not a lot going on. That's why we threw in the two fun ones at the beginning. The next one that we have is Fatal Affair, which is a Netflix original movie. Comes out July 16th. A mother, played by Nia Long, runs into an old friend, played by Omar Epps, after 20 years and starts a brief affair. But when she breaks it up, he goes crazy.
Usually Omar Epps is like the one who plays like the boyfriend to the new relationship that's trying to keep the bad guy away and whatnot, to have it flipped a little bit and to have him be kind of the villain of the story. Kind of that's throwing me for a little bit of a loop. Like, I don't picture Omar Epps this way.
It's in the genre that
Tyler Perry likes to play in.
A little bit outside of Medea. Yeah.
Yes, I'm talking outside of Medea.
What am I trying to think of is the title of these movies? Oh my gosh. Like Fatal Attraction, it's like the sexy thriller movies, and it's kind of been taken over by like the African American community has kind of taken this over, which is kind of cool that they're keeping this genre alive. And Omar Epps like seems to pop up in every other one, and it's really fun to see these movies still being made. And there is definitely an audience for these movies.
Oh yeah.
I can't ever get into these movies for some reason or another. But I mean, hitting Netflix is going to be a perfect spot for this movie. Yeah, so that is Fatal Affair. Like I said, Netflix original, July 16th. The next couple that we got here, woof. The Secret Society of Second Born Royals, which is a Disney Plus original movie, comes out July 17th. A second born royalty discovers that she has superpowers. The leader of this group is Skylar Astin from the Pitch Perfect series. And as Derek has put in our notes, looks like a Disney Channel original movie that somehow got a Disney Plus premiere. That was my thoughts exactly watching this trailer. Oh, this looks so bad.
Did you watch the trailer? I never got a chance to watch the trailer.
Yeah, I watched these all right before we started recording. I had no idea what this was. I have no interest in ever watching this. It looks like a Disney Channel original movie, and it's also it reminds me of what's that called? The Descendants? That's another Disney. Yeah, that's an actual Disney Channel original. It reminds me of that, but with superheroes instead of the Disney villains.
You know, the part that I will openly admit to saying this and whatnot, and being that again I haven't seen the trailer, is I'm feeling kind of down at the fact that we're saying this because I like Skylar Astin. He's one of the few actors that have come out of like the Pitch Perfect movies that I actually do enjoy. He was one of the actors that was in the series for Zoe and the Infinite Playlist. I'm looking like, oh yeah, I can get behind this. I like him, and then you're telling me, I'm like, but will I?
No. Maybe if your kids put it on Disney Plus, that might be the only reason you ever watch this movie.
And by the sounds of it, this is probably not something. This is probably not age appropriate for my kids anyway.
Well, it does seem pretty. There's nothing too crazy in this movie. It reminds me of the Kim Possible movie that was on Disney Channel that they did a year or two ago or whatever. Yeah, it doesn't look good. The next one that we got here is a Hulu original film, part of their Into the Dark series, called The Current Occupant. The note sums it up perfectly. Has the president been put in a mental institution? Maybe.
What?
This Blumhouse Hulu Into the Dark thing is
weird.
I get it because it's every month they put out a new movie. I've seen 3 or 4 of them. They were fine. None of them were great. But they do have an audience. I'm very curious to see what their numbers look like for these, though. I've heard the one that came out last month was called Good Boy. I heard that one was pretty good. And it also had, oh my gosh, Judy Greer in it. So they get actors once in a while that are well known. This one doesn't really, but yeah, it looks like another Hulu Into the Dark film.
Well,
they all look
disappointing.
The same. Yeah, they all look the same. Then the last one that we got here is Lake of Death, a Shudder original film, July 16th. This one comes out. A group of Norwegian friends take a trip to a family cabin and things go awry. This one looks like a lot of fun. Watching the trailer, I kind of put it in my head that this is Evil Dead meets the Raft segment from Creepshow 2. Because they find a evil book and there's also a lot of body horror in the water. Yeah, it looks like fun. I mean, we talked about one last week from Shudder called The Beach House, which was great. And if you love like cosmic horror stuff or Lovecraft, that's right up your alley. And I like that Shudder all of a sudden, before it was kind of once a month, but now it seems like Shudder's putting out a new movie every single week, trying to keep up with like the Hulus and the Disney Plus and Netflix of a movie every week. And I mean, some are hit, some are miss, but so far the ones I've seen this year are hitting. So this one looks like it could keep up with that.
Well, you best be keeping up on that there then.
Yeah, so that is Lake of Death, July 16th. That is the last movie that we have on our coming soon here for this episode, but you can check out the full list of coming soon up on backlot605.com each and every Thursday. Derek does an awesome job on that, and if none of these catch your fancy, he also brings up movies, older movies that are new to streaming services. So if you ever are wondering what's new to Netflix that is an older film, or an older film to Hulu, go check that out every week on backlot605.com. All right, so we're going to take a little break, and we'll be back with our discussion of Red Dawn.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
We are back on the Backlot 605 podcast. I'm Casey.
I'm Brian.
And today we're both Wolverines because we are talking about the 1984 action film Red Dawn.
Wolverines!
Wolverines indeed. So this movie stars Patrick Swayze, C. Thomas Howell, Lea Thompson, Charlie Sheen, Jennifer Grey, and is directed by John Milius, who also is credited as the screenwriter for this film. This is a very right in the middle of the Brat Pack era. The 1980s. And
now I just because real quick here, just because I saw your little synopsis on Letterboxd here, these are Brat Pack adjacent. They're not part of the official list. I'm just saying, I'd like to give you shit about that.
What's that? This is, let's see, 1, 2,
none of them.
3, 4 are Brat Packs.
No, none of them. Look it up. I promise.
If we look up the Wikipedia, they will pop. Jennifer Grey at least would pop up.
All right, here, I like to give you crap. Emilio Estevez, Anthony Michael Hall, Rob Lowe, Andrew McCarthy, Demi Moore, Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald, and Ali Sheedy are the official list. Everybody else.
Why would Rob Lowe be in that group? He was in one movie with them.
I think, yeah, but that it all centers on a certain aspect of it. I just like to give you crap because
they're part of it. I mean,
yeah. Well, no, and you're right.
Screw that Wikipedia article. We'll write our own one where Patrick Swayze is in the Brat Pack where he belongs.
But I would like to point out that they do make reference to the fact that the Brat Pack adjacent, which does include Tom Cruise, C. Thomas Howell, Matt Dillon, basically the guys from The Outsiders,
Yep.
Patrick Swayze, Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen because of his relation to Milius. So they're Brat Pack adjacent.
And Charlie Sheen, I mean, he was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He was in
Yep.
Red Dawn. So he's in more of these movies than Rob Lowe is. So we're kicking Rob Lowe out, and we're putting all the entire cast of Red Dawn in instead.
So when I did make my quick update for Letterboxd, I made the quick reference of that they're Brat Pack adjacent because I had already read yours.
Oh, so let's jump into Red Dawn then. Aside from the Brat Pack, because
okay,
but I think we both agree this is that '80s crew.
Oh, absolutely,
'80s teen crew.
Yeah.
So this is set during the dawn of World War III. I believe it's set in North Dakota, if I'm not mistaken.
Colorado.
Okay. But yeah, a group of teenagers band together to take on the Soviets that have invaded their small town.
Yes.
So Red Dawn, the first note that I have. So is this the first time you've watched it, or was this a rewatch for you?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Rewatch, I don't know how many times. I've seen it a half a dozen times since I've even owned it. All I had to do was pull it off the shelf.
So I had seen this movie in parts. Like, I'd never sat and watched it beginning to end, but this was a CMT movie of the week constantly, and alongside Urban Cowboy and Dirty Dancing. So it fit right in along with the CMT crowd. They loved their Swayze.
And this is one of those ones where I think sitting through and actually get the Blu-ray or something like that is probably going to be best, because there is definitely, even for what it is and the fact that, when it was made and whatnot, there's probably things that were modified for television. So to kind of see it in its true form, I think is probably the best way if you were trying to remember stuff off of your I saw it on TV aspect.
Yeah, and there is, so the reference I had to Red Dawn, first and foremost, because of, the time in which I grew up, was the remake from 2012, which I did. It was one of the few movies during my high school career I saw in theaters. Why? I don't know, really. I mean, it came out in November 2012, so after the Avengers, so Chris Hemsworth was someone at that point. I grew up
and post Hunger Games for Josh Hutcherson.
Yep. And Josh Peck was actually one of the reasons I went and watched it, because I was a Drake and Josh and Amanda Show fan, and to see him in an action movie was like, oh, that's an interesting take for him. We'll talk a little bit about the remake later, but let's talk about this film from 1984. So the first note I had watching this movie was, holy shit, this movie just kicks off right away.
Oh yeah, it doesn't even it doesn't give you a slow burn. It's just straight. We're right on in it.
Within the first 5 minutes, literally Patrick Swayze drops off his young. So Patrick Swayze plays the older brother Jed to Charlie Sheen's Matt, and it's about Matt and his group of high school friends, and Jed is kind of the leader of them during the the fight against the invasion, the fight against the Soviets. And so it opens up with him dropping off Charlie Sheen off at school, and then immediately into this movie, there's the Russians. They're attacking, they're shooting students, no nonstop action right from the get-go. Swayze shows up, picks up Charlie Sheen and all his friends, and they take off, go get some guns, and they're already ready to fight back. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about what this movie is.
I do love the fact that we run into the aspect of C. Thomas Howell's parents just happen to own a gas station / convenience store that just happens to be basically where they can get all the guns that they need and all their supplies. It's like Shields meets a gas station all wrapped in one with a little bit of a Hy-Vee in the back end.
Hey, it was the 80s, baby.
Right.
That's where, after this is where I start to have problems with this movie.
We get 15 minutes in and you're already like, I'm checked out.
I'm not checked out, but within 15 minutes, your concept is already almost ran its course. Where I get what's going on here, but then the rest of the movie is non-characters, which I have a problem with. And I don't want to poo-poo on this movie the entire time, so I'll just get it out quick. I'll get my poop out quick. If this movie did not have Patrick Swayze, Charlie Sheen, Lea Thompson, Jennifer Grey in it, no one would remember Red Dawn.
Well, no. I won't argue that at all, but I should rephrase. It's also going to depend on who would have said replace them.
Anyone, which is fine, but I mean, you throw in any of the other Brat Packs. This is still a very weak movie as far as the script goes. There's not a lot going on here, which I find unfortunate because I love this concept for this movie.
You make mention of that, and I'm not saying that there isn't some weak points upon the script itself, but I mean, in terms of the characters, I do think that those who are cast in their appropriate roles do the characters that they are cast as justice. Like, you look at Patrick Swayze, and he definitely pulls the role, and hands down is the alpha male, the one that says that I'm going to be the leader of the pack. And even get a little bit of emotion out of Charlie Sheen, that sort of thing. I don't know. I think that the people for what they were given, I think, did a phenomenal job.
They're fine. I think we're gonna have a sleepaway camp situation here, Brian. I like this more than you like Sleepaway Camp, that's for sure. But I did not enjoy this movie. I wish I did. There is some stuff that I do love all these actors. I think Swayze he's giving it his all in this movie, for sure. So Charlie Sheen is pretty good in this movie too. He's not playing typical Charlie Sheen in this, where he's like, I'm too cool for everything, like that.
Right.
Charlie Sheen, he's a little more restrained in this.
But I think part of that might actually be, if you look at when he made this movie and whatnot, I think that was before Cut 'Em Loose Charlie Sheen even started happening.
Yeah, I think Major League is probably the turning point where we get Charlie Sheen that we think of now. Or even the cameo in Ferris Bueller, I guess, too.
Yeah.
What I find unfortunate in this movie is that Lea Thompson and Jennifer Grey are literally given nothing to do.
Yeah, they definitely need a little bit more meat. I do like the I think Jennifer Grey's given more than what Lea Thompson is. Lea Thompson Lea Thompson gets a little bit of that, like, nuance of like the romantic relationship that she has with Powers Booth. Outside of that, there's the one scene with Jennifer Grey where she goes in and to that building and whatnot, and just plays it off like she's just leaving whatever, and then there's the mass explosion. I think Jennifer Grey gets a little bit more of the action than Lea Thompson does.
Yeah, they're fine with all the action. I mean, but their characters are nothing. Like, the way they show up in this movie, they aren't even given lines of dialogue. They're just there. They're hidden in a basement. Like, and who's the guy they're staying with? But he basically just opens up and, hey, take these girls with you. Okay. Like, who are they? Like, what is their story? Why are we supposed to take care of them for you? Like, that is my biggest problem with this, is I don't care about anyone besides that. It's Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey and Lea Thompson.
Right.
And what really sucks is we know all these people have great chemistry together that we have seen in other Brat Pack movies, like Swayze and Jennifer Grey. Look at them in Dirty Dancing, and the chemistry they have in that movie is it's still regarded as one of the greatest romance movies ever. It's quoted to this day.
It is quoted to this day, but this is also, Red Dawn is also the movie that almost made us give us a bad Dirty Dancing, because of the toxic relationship that Swayze and Grey had during Red Dawn,
which you can kind of see on screen a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I won't argue that, but and it's funny too, not to get off topic, but I mean, there are certain things about Dirty Dancing, knowing that now, you can kind of see the before and after scenes of when they finally got it to click and they pushed their differences aside from Red Dawn to give us the Dirty Dancing we have today. Because if I want to go on a tangent here and say is watch the movies that made us on Netflix that has the little behind the scenes of Dirty Dancing, you'd realize that we almost had a Billy Zane fronted Dirty Dancing. I think it was Billy Zane and oh my God, Matthew Broderick's wife, Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so continue.
Yeah, so more of the Brat Pack stuff. But yeah, you can see with everyone in this movie that this is a start for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good start for them all to, they kind of are into what characters they would go on to play. Like Patrick Swayze's the leader badass type, that he, in a way that's him from Dirty Dancing. He's definitely the too cool for school guy in that, and Roadhouse and everything beyond that. And Jennifer Grey is playing the girl next door in this, and same with Lea Thompson. They're pretty much the same character in this. C. Thomas Howell is a lot of fun in this movie. I think he is maybe the one that's having the most fun.
Well, why
all the characters?
And he's probably just loving the fact that he gets to work with Patrick Swayze again.
Yeah, he gets to hang out with his friends. Like,
right.
Yeah. One of the other things I had in this movie, I got to look the director up. So John Milius, let's see where he came from, because I don't know this guy's name very well. He wrote Apocalypse Now, so that's something. But he also wrote 1941. Him as a director, though, probably most known for this and Conan the Barbarian with the great Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Man, why didn't we have Schwarzenegger as Jed?
Yeah, why not? Why didn't we get Schwarzenegger as one of the Soviet leaders?
Ooh, because he doesn't speak Russian. He's Austrian.
Same thing back then. They didn't care. If you were foreign, you were Russian. You were a commie, is what they would have said. The directing in this movie is terrible.
You don't like it?
Yeah, I thought it was terrible. There's no energy to this. It just felt like he set up the camera and just let it roll and didn't give any direction to the actors. And I think that's the biggest problem with the movie is we have obviously seen what this cast can do, and they can all give great performances. And I'll use Dirty Dancing again. Swayze and Jennifer Grey in that movie are fantastic, and the chemistry together is one of the greatest ever. But in this, you don't feel anything, and they're supposed to have sort of a romantic relationship in this too.
A little bit.
But I don't ever feel it. Like every time a character interacts with another character, I don't feel anything. I want to feel something. I just want to feel something. That's all I want.
Look at you. You're the young kid who wants to feel emotion.
Yeah, make me feel emotion. But the most emotion I felt in the movie was with the Soviet leader, like where he gets a little bit of a character arc in this movie, where he lets. I guess I'll jump to the end where he lets Jed and Matt go. He lets Charlie Sheen and Patrick Swayze go.
Oh, what is it that makes it go? You know what? You're fine. Okay, let's go. You've been killing all my troops, but that's where.
Again, it's a character arc. It's not an earned character arc, but it's an arc. I mean, No one else gets one in this movie, but it's the Rocky IV thing where the Russians at the end are like, yeah, we were wrong. America's right. America's great. Communism, bad. America, good.
We got to tie this off somehow. How do we do that?
Yeah. And it's one of those, I mean, you look at the 30s and 40s, the propaganda movies of Germany where like, rah, 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 Nazi Germany is great. Everything else, America is bad. We were kind of doing the same thing in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I just watched Rambo 2 recently, and that introduces the Russians as well, where it's just Stallone blowing up Russians for 30 minutes. Like, that was the time for these action movies, and this is definitely no exception, where it's like America's good, Soviet Russia bad.
Right. I could see that. I could definitely that you're right. I mean, that is definitely a part of the time.
Yeah, I don't fault this movie for doing that at all, because it's of the times. And I mean, the concept of this movie, I still love this concept, like where it's this ragtag group of Wolverines, which is still, the most iconic thing out of this movie. And you get these, small town group of kids out, and they're fighting the Soviets. And I mean, I think all of us have thought of this at one point. I know I definitely did in high school, where we're like, what if someone invades our small town, or our town that we live in, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we going to go? Where's the first place we're going to go to hide out? Where are we going to get weapons? How are we going to fight back? What if there's, alien invasion, I guess, is the other one we thought of always. But it was something that high school and middle school aged people thought of a lot. I know.
Please, people think about it nowadays in their 40s and 50s and older.
I mean, I do too, but
I mean, you can't tell me that it's definitely not something that isn't talked about all the time. Side note here, just because it made me think about it here, is Schwarzenegger could totally pull off a Russian. I forgot he pulled off a Russian in the movie Red Heat with him and Jim Belushi.
Did he pull it off?
What?
I said, did he pull it off?
I don't know. Well, he got his time as a Russian, so it was in the 80s too, because like you said, everything had to be about the Russians, and during the Cold War and during the 80s, everything like that. So hey.
Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts on Red Dawn? Otherwise, then I'm going to jump to the remake and what I remember about the remake.
I know. I didn't get a chance to watch it either here, but I'll try to do my best as well. I don't know. I mean, it is definitely a product of its time. It, for the sake of the Cold War aspect of it, the Russians, for the sake of the original, it's a combination of not only the Russians, but also the Cubans, who are also communists, to come up through like Mexico and come through the Midwest kind of thing. It's a product of the 80s. It's a good fun watch. Yes, I agree. You're not going to get a huge award-winning flick out of it here. You're talking about early careers for pretty much everybody in this movie. So it's not like you have grade A, acting and whatnot. It definitely has its faults, but I do think, especially for an 80s film, it is definitely worth the watch and definitely a fun watch.
Yeah, I
know you say no.
No. I have nothing against anyone who likes it. I get why people like this movie. I just can't. I just could not get into it. Like, this is definitely, it's a product of its time. Mm-hmm. If you like the Brat Pack cast, if you like the Swayzes, the Jennifer Greys, the Charlie Sheens, and you want to see them in their full 80s glory with their perm hairs and everything, this is that movie. I mean, it is. Again, we'll talk about it, how you can remake it during modern times, but it's a very different movie at that point. This is a full-on, what if the Brat Pack was in a war movie? And this is what you would get out of it.
Right.
Yeah. So let's jump to the remake very briefly. It came out in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, it was then hitting, Chris Hemsworth was starting to become a huge movie star. Josh Hutcherson, like you said, was right off the Hunger Games. Hemsworth was right off of the Avengers. Josh Peck was trying to make his way into more serious roles outside of Nickelodeon stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I remember liking this movie.
I have a real quick question here for you, because you made the comment about seeing this in the theater. You were still in high school, kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. For the sake of time frame, where were you at in 2009?
2009, I was in middle school. I didn't.
Okay.
So I graduated high school in 2013. So I would have been a junior when Red Dawn came out.
Here's the reason why I ask, is because the remake to Red Dawn, if you're not familiar, is the fact that this movie was in development hell and was actually shot. This movie was made before Hemsworth was Thor, before Josh Hutcherson was Peter Mullark.
Alongside Cabin, it was along with Cabin in the Woods. They were waiting for Hemsworth to become a star.
Right, is the fact that this movie sat on the shelf for 3 years, made because I don't know if they deemed it unmarketable or whatever the case is, but until all of a sudden Hemsworth becomes Thor, Hutcherson all of a sudden gets the Hunger Games, all of a sudden they're like, hey, you know what? I bet you we can put this out now because we have some people attached to it. Because, I mean, if you really think about it, for the sake of the remake, if, like, I didn't know who Josh Peck was because his Nickelodeon TV show was obviously well after my time and whatnot. I didn't know who Jeffrey Dean Morgan was at the time because he plays the Powers Booth type of character for the sake of the remake and whatnot. Like, until they became popular, you make the reference of nobody would have gone to go see the original Red Dawn, but they know who these certain people were, so that's why they go see it. I kind of wonder is that why this was on the shelf for 3 years, because they're like, we have no way to market this. We don't have a definitive star.
Is this the early 2010s Brat Pack right here?
No.
2 out of the 3 ain't bad. I mean,
no.
So this one, it takes place in early 2010s, as we said. Instead of taking on the Russians, we take on North Korea, which makes absolute sense for when this is taking place. And
unless they would have made it a period piece, they had to have updated it. And because you figure at the time we had obviously a much better relationship with the Russians, and like, who else are you going to go at in modern times? I mean, it makes perfect sense.
So there's 3 notes that I remember and would like to hit for this. Is Hemsworth and Josh Peck should not play brothers because, one, Hemsworth is a muscular. Where's Hemsworth from? I'm drawing a.
He's Australian.
Yeah. So I don't know why I was drawing a blank on that. So you have an Australian buff guy teaming up who is supposed to be his younger brother with Josh Peck, who is not that. So he is not.
So Josh Peck is the nerdy little brother.
He's at that point. He's not really. That would have been Josh Hutcherson. Josh Peck is not good in this movie. He should have probably flopped roles with Josh Hutcherson, who should have played the younger Hemsworth. That would have made more sense. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is really good in this movie when he gets to show up with who is it? Kenneth Cho, who shows up? Yeah, he's with another man. Yeah, they're great in this movie. That's a lot of fun seeing them team up with the kids. But where I think the remake does better than the original is the female characters. Because they're actual characters in the remake, from what I remember. Because Adriana Palicki plays like an ex-girlfriend or at least ex-classmate of Hemsworth's character, who they also say Hemsworth was in the Marines or the Army or something. That's the reason why he's the leader of this group. So that at least makes more sense, because they never
give a little bit of a backstory.
Yeah, they give him some backstory and introducing why he would be the leader of this, not just that he's the oldest, but it makes sense that he would be the one training his brother and his friends to fight back. And yeah, that makes sense. And along with Adriana Palicki, who can definitely kick more ass than Jennifer Grey and Lea Thompson. And I think she was pretty good in the movie from what I remember. I've not seen this since that, theater watch back in 2012, but
I don't remember the last time I watched it. It was at home.
Yeah, I remember enjoying this one. So it's due for another rewatch pretty soon, especially since I watched the original so recent. But yeah.
I guess at least online, the scores are not in your favor, but I do get exactly what you're talking about for the sake of the character in the building, and I'm with you though for the sake of the remake. As someone who does enjoy the original and whatnot, I also do think that the remake did the appropriate things to try to diversify itself from the original, because also for the sake of how they end the film.
It's a very because I remember the thing I vividly remember about the remake is can we spoil it? Should we just spoil it?
It was 2012. If they haven't, it's too late.
Yeah, spoilers for Red Dawn 2012. Hemsworth just gets shot in the face like towards the end of the movie. Like he's not in the final act of the movie.
I will flat out say that's actually one of the things I enjoyed about the remake, because again, I own the original. I've seen it enough times to be able to go, okay, I see the parallels. And then I do remember watching that, and Jed dies, and I was like, that just happened.
It's pretty surprising. It is very surprising.
And I love the way they executed it, because you did not see it coming. It just happens. And then that's where you see Josh Peck's character kind of, to Matt have to kind of come to the forefront to be the new leader kind of thing. And you're just like, okay, so the guy that you had to basically be the star, the one that's going to draw you in, that just happened. So, no, I love that spin on the remake. They're like, you know what? We got to do something a little bit different. Here's what we're going to do.
Yeah, I did like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let's kind of wrap up this conversation on Red Dawn. What would you give it out of? I don't know. Do we even keep star ratings on this? I don't know.
On the new one or the old one?
On the old one. What would you give the topic for today? 1984's Red Dawn out of 5.
Hold on just a second.
Out of 5 Brat Pack members, how many do you
out of 5 Brat Pack members? Oh, where is my? Because I did put it in here. Red Dawn. I put it at 3.5 stars. I had to go look at my Letterboxd. Yeah. So yes, I put it at 3.5. I do see its faults. I do see some of its issues and whatnot, but I do think it's a good, fun watch and whatnot. It by all means isn't perfect, but yep, I gave it 3.5. So 3.5 semi Brat Packers to out of 5.
I give it an Emilio Estevez and a Anthony Michael Hall out of 5. So I give it a 2. I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
I'll give it an Anthony Michael.
Yeah. So that's Red Dawn, 1984. It is pretty easy to find to rent out there, and like I said, it's probably airing on CMT as you're listening to this. So just flip on CMT and you'll find it. So
classic movies.
Yes. No, that's country music, the country music television, CMT.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's CMT. So, yes, that is our discussion on Red Dawn.
The Dawn of Red.
The Dawn of Reds. All right, so let's wrap up the show here. We got to plug some of the things that we got coming up. I think the first thing we should probably plug, because I think we're going to be talking about a lot of these 80s action movies, is our Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger live show that we will be doing August 30th, 7 p.m. on Facebook Live.
You're going to be having so much fun with that.
I'm already doing my watches for it. I'm going to have a blast doing this. The problem is I don't know which Rocky movies I'm going to play on this list. It's tough.
What? You mean you're not just going to play all of them?
I wish I could, Brian. I wish I could.
So yes, still think you need to get Tango and Cash watched.
Oh, I definitely am. My goal is to watch every Stallone and Schwarzenegger movie I've not watched, and then do my rewatches after that. So the whole goal is to end up having watched their entire filmography.
Are you sure you want to do this at the end of August? Or are you going to have enough time?
Oh, I got time. Even I'm jumping into the Italian Stallion stuff from the 70s. Don't tell anyone.
Oh, dear.
So anyway, that again is August 30th, 7 p.m. Facebook Live. You can check out our event page on our Facebook page.
Yes.
But you can check out this podcast and all of our other podcasts, including the Killer Countdown and some of our latest interviews we should plug. We had an awesome interview with the guys from the Hazard Film Project.
Really good dudes.
Yeah, great guys. We had Daniel and Bobby on from that, and we chatted for about an hour, and it was just a blast talking about their project. And they just announced this a few days ago as we're recording this. They did reach their Kickstarter goal for the film. So yes. They have reached their goal, which is awesome. Did we push it over the edge? Doubt it, but maybe we did. I don't know.
Right. And, they've got a little bit of their stretch goal that they're shooting for to try to be able to maybe loosen up the reins a little bit here, because obviously people need to get paid. As much as this is a passion project, people still need to eat and put a roof over their head kind of thing. So definitely make sure you go out and check the Hazard Project on Kickstarter. Back them up. You definitely throw them up here a couple bucks, because every little bit's going to help make this wonderful film.
Yes. So that is, I believe it's going through the end of July. So there is still time. Just because they hit their goal doesn't mean they're going to stop with the campaign. So like Brian said, they got to, help feed the crew, and they want to keep doing more film stuff in the state of South Dakota. That's where this money is going to. So please help out the project any way you can.
And I do want to say that by the time this drops, there should be about a week left.
Yes. So go check it out. Just follow their Facebook page, Hazard Film Project, and you can find the info to their Kickstarter on there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can check out backlot605.com for all our latest podcasts, including the Hazard Film Project interview, and our latest movie news, reviews, articles, including coming soon, all on backlot605.com.
Yes.
Brian, where can the people find us on the interwebs?
So on the interwebs, on the internet, on that thing that's in front of you, whether it be your phone or your computer, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. On the gram. Casey does a really fantastic job of making sure that we got stuff on the gram. You love the gram.
I like the gram.
You like the gram. You can also make sure to join the conversation. We've got the South Dakota Film Community Group on Facebook, whether it be replying and interacting with other people here or posting what you find exciting, news, reviews, anything. Come check us out on the South Dakota Film Community Group as well.
Yes. And then next week, what do we got coming up next week, Brian?
Next week? What are we going to talk about next week? I would have to say I'm a little rusty. I'm going to have to get this thing watched here in the next couple of days. But the next week here, we are going to be talking about the Oliver Stone I Am America movie of Born on the 4th of July, starring the infamous Tom Cruise.
Starring Mr. America, Tom Cruise. I have no idea anything about this movie. I've heard the title a million times, and I know it's an Oliver Stone movie with Tom Cruise. I've never seen anything about Born on the 4th of July, so I'm excited to watch this movie.
Yeah, and the part that's funny is that I've only seen bits and pieces. I have never seen this movie from beginning to end. So I'm going to be right there with you in terms of that. And that's saying something because this movie's been out for a long time. And knowing that it's an Oliver Stone film does intrigue me just because, you know, he does tend to side a little bit on the dramatic as well as he's not reserved when it comes to his, you know, getting his political, voice out there, if you will, with his films. Whenever he's very on the nose with that kind of thing. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this and seeing where we go with it.
Yes, so that is next week, Born on the 4th of July. So if you want to check out the movie before we do a full deep dive into it next week, go check it out. But for the Backlot 605 podcast, that's about all we got for this week. Brian, do you want to say goodbye to the lovely listeners?
Bye, lovely listeners. Come back next week. We will miss you until then.
We will miss you, and we'll see you next time on the Backlot of South Dakota.